Monica hadn't spoken to her grandmother in over 8 years. So when her mother called to tell her that Grandma Rose had passed away, she felt nothing. Just a hollow acknowledgement of a woman who had become a stranger. But then came the shock. Monica was named in the will. It doesn't make sense, Mom. She barely knew I existed. I know, honey, but the lawyer says you need to be there tomorrow. You're getting something. Monica almost didn't go. Facing her estranged family after all these years felt impossible, but curiosity won. She booked the first flight home. The lawyer's office was thick with tension when Monica walked in late. Her aunts, uncles, and cousins, faces she'd once known so well, stared at her with barely concealed hostility. She took the last empty chair, feeling like an intruder at her own family gathering. The will reading began. Cars went to Uncle Frank. The house was split between her 2 aunts, jewelry went to Cousin Sarah, money was divided among the grandchildren. Everyone except Monica. She shifted in her seat, wondering why she'd wasted her time coming here. Then the lawyer cleared his throat. And finally, to my granddaughter Monica. I leave my property at 1247 Forest Ridge Road, including all buildings and contents therein. The room fell silent. What property? Aunt Linda's voice cut through the quiet. Mother never mentioned any other property. The lawyer consulted his papers. It appears to be a farm, 43 acres, been in the family for decades according to the deed. Monica's cousin Jake leaned forward. How come none of us knew about this place? Nobody had an answer. After signing the papers, Monica stared at the address in her hands. Forest Ridge Road. She'd never heard of it. Her mother, Helen, approached hesitantly. I could drive you there, if you want to see it. It's only about 30 minutes out. The car ride was silent, except for GPS directions leading them deeper into the woods. Monica noticed her uncle's pickup truck following behind them, then her cousin's sedan. The whole family was apparently curious about this mysterious inheritance. When they finally arrived, Monica's heart sank. The farm was a disaster. Broken fences, collapsed barn roof, weeds everywhere. The main farmhouse looked like it hadn't been touched in 20 years. Nature had reclaimed most of the property. Behind her, she heard Jake snort with laughter. Well, Monica, looks like Grandma left you a real treasure. The other relatives were already heading back to their cars, chuckling and shaking their heads. Another cousin called out, Hope you enjoy your new money pit. Only her mother stayed behind. You've got 30 minutes to look around. Then I'm driving back for the funeral planning. Monica stood alone in front of the decrepit farmhouse. Fine. She was here, might as well see what Grandma Rose had really left her. The front door creaked open on rusted hinges. Inside, dust particles danced in shafts of sunlight streaming through broken windows. The floorboards groaned under her feet as she explored room by room. Kitchen. Cabinets hanging off their hinges. Living room, furniture covered in moldy sheets. Bedroom, a collapsed ceiling beam blocking the doorway. This was worse than worthless. This was going to cost her money she didn't have. But then, in what looked like an old tool room, something caught her eye. A section of the wooden floor looked different. Newer boards, fitted tightly together in a square pattern. Monica knelt down and ran her fingers along the edges. There were small gaps. She found a rusty screwdriver and pried at the corner. The section lifted away, revealing a hidden trap door. Her heart pounded as she stared down into darkness. A narrow wooden staircase descended into what looked like a cellar. Using her phone's flashlight, Monica carefully made her way down the creaky steps. The space below was much larger than she'd expected, and unlike the house above, this room was preserved. Old furniture sat, covered in dust but intact. Wooden crates lined the walls, and in the center of the room sat an ornate chest that definitely didn't belong in a run-down farm. Monica approached the chest slowly. The wood was dark and carved with intricate patterns. This was old. Really old. She lifted the heavy lid. Inside were layers of carefully wrapped items. Letters tied with ribbon, photographs in protective sleeves, a leather-bound journal with Rose embossed on the cover. Monica picked up the journal with trembling hands. The first entry was dated 40 years ago. Today I met him again at the old oak tree. Thomas says we must be careful, but I don't care anymore. I love him. Thomas? Monica had never heard her grandmother mention anyone named Thomas. Grandpa Robert had died when Monica was little, but these entries were from after his death. She flipped through more pages. Entry after entry revealed a secret love affair that had lasted for years. Thomas was married, so the relationship had to remain hidden, but the love in her grandmother's words was undeniable. Thomas brought me the most beautiful jewelry box today. He says it belonged to his great-grandmother, brought over from the old country. He wants me to have it because he can't give me anything else openly. A jewelry box? Monica looked around the cellar more carefully. There, in the corner, barely visible behind a stack of crates, was an ornate wooden box. Monica moved the crates aside and gasped. The jewelry box was stunning. Carved from dark wood with mother-of-pearl inlays, it looked like something from a museum. She opened it carefully. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, were pieces of antique jewelry. But more importantly, there was another letter. My dearest Rose, this box has been in my family for over 200 years. My great-grandmother carried it from Ireland when she came to America. I know I can't marry you, but I want you to have something that means everything to me. Hide it well. Perhaps someday, when we're both gone, someone in your family will find it and understand that love sometimes exists in secret places. All my love, Thomas. Monica sat back on her heels, mind racing. This jewelry box could be incredibly valuable, not just monetarily, but historically, and her grandmother had kept this secret for decades. She spent the next hour reading through more entries, each one revealing new layers of her grandmother's hidden life. The woman she'd thought of as cold and distant had been passionate, romantic, and deeply in love. But as Monica continued exploring the cellar, she began to notice disturbing signs. Some of the dust had been disturbed recently. A few crates had been moved. Someone else had been here. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. Time's up. Meet me at the car. Monica quickly photographed several pages of the journal and some of the jewelry pieces. She carefully replaced everything in the chest except for one small locket, something she could research without drawing attention. As she climbed back up the stairs, she heard something that made her blood run cold. Footsteps above her head. Slow, deliberate footsteps, moving through the house. Her mother was outside by the car. So who was walking around upstairs? Monica quietly closed the trapdoor and covered it back up with the loose floorboards. She needed to get out of here without whoever was upstairs knowing about the cellar. She crept to the tool room doorway and listened. The footsteps had moved to what sounded like the kitchen. Monica could hear cabinet doors opening and closing. Someone was searching the house. She took a deep breath and walked casually toward the front door, making normal footstep sounds, as if she'd been exploring openly. Hello, she called out. Is someone there? The sounds stopped immediately. Monica waited, but heard nothing more. She walked outside to where her mother was waiting impatiently by the car. Did you see anyone else come in? Monica asked casually. No. Can we go now? I have 100 things to do. During the drive home, Monica's mind raced. Someone knew about the farm. Someone was looking for something. And given her family's reaction at the lawyer's office, she had a pretty good idea who it might be. That evening, Monica did research on antique Irish jewelry boxes. What she found made her heart race. Boxes matching the description of hers had sold at auction for anywhere from $50,000 to over $200,000. She was potentially sitting on a fortune that her grandmother had kept secret for decades. But she was also potentially in danger. The next morning, Monica rented a car and drove back to the farm alone. She needed to document everything properly and figure out how to protect her inheritance. This time, she parked a quarter-mile away and walked through the woods to approach the house from behind. If someone was watching the property, she didn't want them to know she'd returned. As she got closer to the farmhouse, her worst fears were confirmed. A pickup truck she recognized was parked behind the barn. Jake's truck. Monica crept closer and peered through a dirty window. Inside, she saw Jake and two of her other cousins systematically searching the house. They were pulling up floorboards, moving furniture, clearly looking for something specific. They were trying to steal from her. Monica quietly made her way around to the back of the house where the tool room was located. Relieved, that window was broken, giving her a way to get inside without using the front door. She climbed through carefully, grateful for the thick dust that would muffle any sounds. She could hear her cousins in the other rooms, their voices carrying through the thin walls. "It's got to be here somewhere," Jake was saying. "Grandma Rose wouldn't have left her this place unless there was something valuable hidden." "Maybe we're wrong," another voice replied. "Maybe the old lady was just being spiteful." "No way! I heard my mom talking to Aunt Linda. They think Rose had money hidden somewhere. Why else would she keep this place secret?" Monica quietly lifted the floorboards and slipped down into the cellar. She needed to secure the most valuable items before her cousins found the trap door. Working quickly, she gathered the jewelry box, the journal, and several of the most important letters. She found an old canvas bag and carefully packed everything inside. But as she prepared to leave, she heard the footsteps above change direction. They were heading toward the tool room. "Hey, check this out," Jake's voice came from directly overhead. "These floorboards look different." Monica's heart pounded. She was trapped in the cellar with nowhere to go. The only exit was the stairs leading right to where her cousins were standing. She heard the scraping sound of the floorboards being pried up. Monica pulled out her phone and dialed 911, whispering as quietly as possible. "911, what's your emergency?"
"I'm being robbed," Monica whispered. "I'm trapped in a cellar. The thieves are right above me. 1247 Forest Ridge Road."
"Ma'am, I can barely hear you. Are you in immediate danger?" Above her, she heard Jake's voice. "Holy shit, look at this! There's a whole room down here!"
"Yes," Monica whispered into the phone. "They're breaking in now. Please hurry."
"Units are on the way. Stay on the line and stay hidden if possible." Monica crept to the darkest corner of the cellar, clutching the bag of artifacts. She could hear footsteps on the wooden stairs.
"This is incredible,"
Jake's voice echoed in the cellar. "Look at all this old stuff. There's got to be something valuable down here." Monica pressed herself against the wall behind a large crate, hardly daring to breathe. Through a gap in the crates, she could see flashlight beams sweeping the room. "Check that chest," another voice said. "That looks expensive." Monica heard the chest being opened, heard her cousins rifling through the contents she'd left behind. "Look at these letters and this jewelry. Some of this stuff looks like it might be worth something." In the distance, Monica finally heard the sound she'd been praying for. Police sirens. Her cousins heard them too. "Shit! Someone called the cops! We need to get out of here." Monica heard them scrambling up the stairs, heard running footsteps across the floor above. She waited until she heard car doors slamming and an engine starting before she dared to move. When the police officers called down into the cellar, Monica nearly cried with relief. "Down here! I'm down here!" Two officers helped her up out of the cellar. Monica was shaking as she explained what had happened. "Those were your cousins?" Officer Martinez asked, taking notes. "Your own family members. I guess they heard about the inheritance and decided they deserved it more than I did?" The officers took her statement and promised to arrest Jake and the others. They also suggested Monica change the locks on the property and consider security cameras. After the police left, Monica sat alone in the farmhouse, still holding the bag of her grandmother's secrets. She felt betrayed by her family, but also strangely connected to her grandmother for the first time in years. Rose had hidden a love story down in that cellar. She'd kept Thomas's memory alive in secret, protecting something beautiful from a world that wouldn't have understood. Monica opened the journal again and read more entries. Moved. Her grandmother's words painted a picture of a woman who had been forced to love in shadows, but who had loved deeply nonetheless. "I know Thomas and I can never be together the way we want, but these stolen moments are worth everything. When I hold the jewelry box he gave me, I remember that some kinds of love are worth keeping secret." Monica looked around the decrepit farmhouse with new eyes. This wasn't just a burden her grandmother had left her. This was a sanctuary, a place where Rose had come to remember love. And now it was Monica's. She spent the next several hours carefully documenting everything in the cellar. She photographed each letter, each piece of jewelry, every page of the journal. This was her family's real history, not the cold relationships and bitter feuds she'd grown up with, but a story of genuine love. When she finally locked up the farmhouse and drove away, Monica had made a decision. She wasn't going to sell the farm. She was going to restore it, not for profit, but as a tribute to her grandmother's hidden love story. Rose had preserved something beautiful in that cellar. Monica was going to preserve Rose's sanctuary. The jewelry box would help pay for the restoration, but more importantly, Monica had found something she hadn't expected. A connection to family that went deeper than bitter arguments and old resentments. She had found a love story that had been waiting 40 years for someone to discover it. And in protecting her grandmother's secrets, Monica had found her own purpose. 3 months later, Jake and her other cousins were convicted of breaking and entering. Monica didn't press for maximum sentences, but she did make sure they understood. The farm was off limits forever. The farmhouse is still being restored. Monica goes there every weekend, working room by room to bring it back to life. In the evenings, she sits in the cellar, reading her grandmother's journal, finally getting to know the woman who had been a stranger for so long. And sometimes, when the light is just right, Monica can almost imagine her grandmother and Thomas meeting at that old oak tree, stealing moments of happiness in a world that would have judged them. The jewelry box sits on Monica's mantel now, not as a valuable antique, but as a reminder that love finds a way, even if it has to hide in secret places for 40 years, waiting for the right person to discover it. Some inheritances are about money. This one was about understanding that family isn't just about the people who stay in your life. Sometimes it's about the secrets they leave behind for you to find. And Monica had found the most beautiful secret of all.